and welcome to DIY Project this month, Rainbow Soap. So to kick things off, let's go over with what you are provided. First and foremost, you have 7 ounces of glycerin soap base, which has been cut up into 1-inch cubes and separated. Then you are going to have 2 silicone cupcake liners. Then we have our mica powder, which is for you guys going to come in a container like this and have the labeled color on top. You are going to have a small container of our essential oil, which is sugar cookie smelling. Okay, so what you will need to have are 7 individual bowls. These are mine. These are microwave safe. This is our key thing that we want. You want either plastic or glass. We don't ever put metal in the microwave. You're gonna need either a heat-resistant spoon. For this one, I'm actually gonna be using these wooden popsicle sticks as my stirrers. All right, so step 1, we are going to want one of our bowls, 1 bag of our soap base. If you're starting with red, you're gonna want your red mica powder. If you're starting in the opposite direction where red is your top, you're gonna start with your purple/violet color, okay? I will be doing mine in the traditional way of red, orange, yellow, green, blue, indigo, and violet. All right, so you're also going to want to have your cupcake liners handy and your stirring device. Now, something that you are not provided with, but you are encouraged to use, is some rubbing alcohol. I have mine in a little spray bottle. And what that will do is when the soap comes out after it has been stirred and poured into the mold, you'll spritz a little bit of rubbing alcohol on top, and that helps release any bubbles in the soap and will help glue the layers individually together. First and foremost, we're going to take our soap base out of its bag, plop it right into the bowl. Side note, for anybody who is very clean-minded like myself, I have some paper towels to rub off my mica powder spoon and also to put my stirring sticks on when they're done. So that way it doesn't cause a mess. Take our bowl with our soap base, open it up on our microwave, and we will go for 30 seconds for the first one. Now what we're looking for here is a nice, cleanly melted soap base where it's all one cohesive thing. We don't want any lumps or bumps or anything. We want it all to be nice and liquidy so we get a nice even pour out of it. Whew, 30 seconds was a little long actually. So as we can see, got a nice liquidy soap. Now we're gonna put just a couple drops of our sugar cookie in and a scoop, which you guys all have their already measured out scoop, so you can just plop it in. Measured out scoop of the mica powder, and then while it is nice and hot still, stir, 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 stir all that up. You don't need a whole bunch of color. Silicone cupcake molds. Scrape all of your soap down to the corner because you want to make sure you get all of that lovely, lovely soap. And then just pour a good amount into the bottom of each mold. Because they are so thin, it should not take too terribly long for this to set. However, we want to make sure that it is set before we add the next layer. So then I'm going to take my little spray bottle, give it a one, two on each of those. And because it is early enough, I can gently just move them off to the side. All right? Important note, for those of you who do use your dishwasher, or your moms who use your dishwasher, or parent, this is soap. So you're gonna wanna make sure that those bowls actually get thoroughly scrubbed out and clean. Otherwise, you're going to have what I like to call deadly bubbles. If you put these just straight into the dishwasher after you're done, the soap will react with the hot water and the rest of the soap and will start to leak out the sides of your dishwasher with a lot of bubbles. So please, please, please make sure to fully scrub your bowls and your spoons to make sure all that soap is off before you run them through the dishwasher, all right? Okay, so our first layers have had about 20 to 30 seconds to set up, and they're feeling pretty good. So while those are still continuing to cool, we're gonna move on to our next layer. And this is important because this layer is the first where you can get the biggest issues with having layered soap, all right? So this time instead of 30 seconds, because that seemed to be a little bit too long, we're gonna go with 10 seconds and see how that works. Now, the important thing here is that this is setting up and cooling down. And we're heating up this soap. 10 seconds. We're heating up this soap so that it actually will melt into the consistency we want. So 10 seconds was just a little too short, but that's okay, because we're gonna go for maybe another 10 seconds. So when we put hot things on top of something else that melts, what's gonna happen? It will melt it. So with this layer and every layer after this point, we have to let the soap cool down just a little bit before we add it onto the next layer. If we don't, it will melt the layer before and everything's gonna get cloudy and we're not gonna get those beautiful lines for our rainbow soap, okay? Woo! Yep. 2 rounds of 10 seconds worked just fine. We've got this beautiful, nice liquid now. It's hard to see because it's a black bowl and clear liquid, but... And again, we're gonna go in with just a little bit of our sugar cookie. And this time we're doing orange. So you guys, again, have yours already pre-measured out. You really don't need a whole bunch. Just a little slop of some orange. Take our wooden popsicle stick. And personally, I like to lean mine down so that it all pools into the edge of the bowl. That way I can get as much of the soap in together as possible. And it gives me a nice solid area to work with. So then we just stir, 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 stir until we get all of that mica powder mixed in. And it becomes a nice cohesive looking color and texture. So we don't want any lumps of mica powder. That'll mess with our soap setting up, and then we'll have little mica powder bombs strewn throughout our soap. And trust me, this will dye your hands and your skin and everything else it can get its little glittery hands on. Okay. So we're gonna stir this up. We'll let this set for a quick second, because what we're doing is we're waiting for it to cool down enough that it's not gonna melt a red layer, which is setting up really nicely. I'm gonna make sure that I've got mine nice and covered with some alcohol so that it sticks nicely together, and you can see that a skin will start trying to form in your bowl, okay? That's okay, that's normal. That's totally, totally normal. And that's about the point when we're gonna start pouring it in. So then we go a little bit of orange. And then some orange. You can kind of see that it's starting to get a little bit of skin, but that's okay. It's not the end of the world at all. That's normal and happens. Now, does that mean that it's going to be a little lumpy? Maybe. But you know what? If every pancake was perfect, we'd never have to toss out the first one. So like this one in my other one is a little bit lumpy and bumpy, but that's okay because we all learn and nobody's gonna be perfect the first time around. Whereas my other one, which is already setting up nicely, is nice and smooth. All right. So let's repeat this process 5 more times. All right. In we go again. That's the perfect one. Actually, this yellow is coming out really beautiful. All right, here we are with our green. 15 seconds. Perfect. Perfect. So 1, 2 splashes. Scoop of green. All right, and there we have our green. So as your layers get slightly wider and larger, it's going to take a little bit more time for them to cool down to the point where they can have something poured on top of them. Because remember, we want to make sure that these layers cool down before we put the next layer on top. So my greens have been cooling for about, you know, a minute and a half, and they're still a little bit liquidy. I can tell because when I tilt, it starts to move around. Now, don't tilt too much because that will create lumps inside of your soap, but just enough that you can see if it's moving around. And if it's still moving around, it is not cooled enough. So please be patient. Please make sure that you wait long enough that it doesn't all just pour together and become one big mess. So I would suggest about 2 to 3 minutes for every layer from yellow up, because it's gonna get a little bit more and more difficult for them to cool. Plus, you have all the heat that's rising from the cooling layers underneath, because though they're cool enough to pour on, they're not fully solidified yet, and they're not 100% cooled down. So you've got that heat rising, heating up the wax on, or not wax, I'm sorry, the soap on top, that causes it to stay a little bit hotter for a little bit longer. All right, here we are for our blue layer. 15 seconds, and then we'll be ready to go. 1, 2. And our beautiful blue. And then we just start scraping everything down and mixing it up. Spray, spray. It's starting to get to the right consistency that we want it at. And then just gently pour in the blue. So that way we've got a nice blue layer. All right. And there's our blue. Here we are on our indigo layer. Let's put our soap in the microwave. 15 seconds on the clock. And we'll be ready to go. All right, got our soap. 1, 2. Indigo. Just a little bit. All right, now that that's all mixed up, let's get our stuff over here. A quick spritz, spritz. And then gently, 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 we pour. And gently. And put about 2.5 minutes or so on the timer. And we'll see you for our violet layer. Welcome back for the last layer, our violet. So, in we go, 15 seconds. All right, 1, 2. Tiny bit more. And we pull our molds over. And this one, you're probably gonna have a little bit extra left over, but that's okay. Nudge it into the edges. And then you might have a little bit left over, but like I said, that's perfectly fine and totally normal. One last spritz, 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 spritz. And then we are going to do the most important step of all. We are going to walk away. We're not gonna touch it. We're not gonna play with it. We're not gonna fuss with it. We're going to walk away for at least an hour, if not more. Because if we try to unmold this before everything is set, it is going to collapse on itself. And it's going to ooze out everywhere and you're going to have a big soapy mess. Because though it seems like the layers have set fully, they really haven't. And don't put this in the fridge because that's going to actually make the chemicals react poorly and harden too quickly and break apart from each layer. We want to let this cool down completely naturally. Minimum of an hour. Minimum. Okay? If you can, just let it set overnight. Look at it in the morning and see how it is. That's plenty of time. But if you really, really want to see, minimum 1 hour. Okay, I'll see you guys in a little bit when we unmold and see the results. Welcome back, and we've been waiting about 2 hours. Sorry, my son is playing in the background, so if you hear some yells and things, that's that. But we've waited our time. It's now pretty solid to the touch. So let's reveal. Peel back, and we find a beautiful rainbow soap. We've got wonderful even layers, got that great red bottom, and that beautiful purple top, and all the wonderful colors in between. All right, have fun, be safe, and we'll see you next month for DIY Project Bath Soap. Bye, guys.